What's going on YouTube? This is Rybo at the kitchen table again, still recovering from the garage workbench incident here with my nice mahogany board, trying to get those bench vibes going. But today I'm here with another cut or carry knife review, today looking at the Spyderco Smock. This is a very popular knife from Spyderco. This particular version, I believe, is the Knife Joy exclusive. It's got these very slick G10 handles instead of the normal carbon fiber. And this is in 20 CV. I can't remember what the normal Smock comes in, but I don't believe it's 20 CV. But anyway, this was loaned in and I got a chance to take a look at it. So I thought I'll give a kind of quick review on my thoughts on the Spyderco Smock. Now, this this review is not going to be very in-depth, just with everything that's going on. I don't have a ton of time to spend with reviews and prep and research and whatnot. So these are kind of just quick thoughts after carrying this for a couple days, but take that for what you will. All right, so things that I like about the Spyderco Smock. So to be honest, this knife never appealed to me in any way, shape, or form. I didn't like the way it looked. I did not like really anything about it. So I was never really tempted by this knife. I'll say the one thing that I kind of somewhat liked about this knife was the blade shape. If you know me, if you watch some of my videos, you know that I tend to fall for kind of cleavery, Warncliffe, even some clip point style blades. I like blades that have this kind of cleaverish shape to them. I find it very, very practical for daily carry. I use and abuse my knives, so I really find this blade shape very, very useful. And so that's kind of the one thing that I liked about this knife, although I don't really know what was going on here. And so aesthetically, it just never really did it for me. But there's a couple interesting things about this knife, most notably this locking mechanism. So you have this push button here, and it's essentially a compression lock, but you use this push button to disengage. So instead of the very fidgety kind of compression lock that you would have on like your PM2 here, you have a button that basically pushes that over, and so that's how you disengage it, which is pretty cool, something a little bit different. It means you can depress this button and flick the knife out like that, or you can drop it shut. Very safe mechanism, also very fidgety, which is what we're all here for, but a very safe and I think very useful one-handed opening close mechanism for the knife. So that is very, very cool. Somewhat reminiscent of the feeling you'd have kind of playing with like a Benchmade Axis lock, but you get that compression lock strength and you know, kind of cool. The other thing is this has got this kind of squared off flipper up here, very reminiscent of like a front flipper, but it's not on the front. But you can use this to deploy the knife as well, and I think that it actually works very, very well. So that is kind of the cool points of the knife. But getting back to the video, things I like about the knife. I love the compression lock. I love this like kind of button deploy, button close compression lock. I like that it has multiple ways of opening it, and I think the action is actually pretty good. It's not amazing, but it's really good. I still think that, to me, a compression lock is still probably more enjoyable. It's more intuitive, but that's probably just because I've owned so many of them that it's kind of become second nature. This does not feel bad by any means. It actually works quite nicely, and I've been very, very impressed with it. Yeah, I think the compression lock, I think the overall lock mechanism and the action is very, very good on this knife. I also think this knife carries very well. Now, this is not the stock pocket clip. It comes with a Spyderco spoon clip, which it's hit or miss for me. I think it's the right choice on some knives. I'm not a fan of it on other knives. In general, I find that it doesn't wear very well. But I think it's a fine choice for this knife. It's, you know, I don't know. I'm a wire clip guy, so wire clip is what I probably would prefer, although I actually don't know if a wire clip fits with the general aesthetic of this knife, although I don't think a spoon clip does either. But either way, I think that this knife carries very well because you have this, to me, kind of Benchmade 940 reminiscent shape to this. It's very efficient. You don't have the typical Spyderco hump out here. You don't have any kind of weird things going on. So it slides right in the pocket, carries nice and deep right up against the side of the pocket. You don't have a flipper tab sticking out or anything like that. It's a bit heavy. I don't have my scale with me, but it's a tad bit heavy, but not too bad. So I think it carries very well. And I think that the action and the locking mechanism is very good. And finally, I think that the blade is very nice. I actually really, really like this blade. So, I mean, that's the one kind of thing that I did see before before I got my hands on the knife that I liked. And that still holds up. I think that this is a very useful blade shape. It's nice when you have a point like that. Very nice for like opening boxes and that kind of thing, but I think it actually cuts very well. It's got a pretty good grind here. You don't have the full flat grind that you find in a lot of Spydercos these days, but I think that this nice hollow grind is really, really nice. I mean, this comes down to a very, very thin edge, and I think overall it functions very, very well as a tool. And so in that sense, it kind of covers my two most basic items in a knife, which are that it cuts fairly well and it carries fairly well. And so in that sense, like, it's a fine knife. Unfortunately, let's move to the things I don't like about this knife. And this is really challenging a lot of the beliefs I have about what makes a great knife, because this cuts fairly well, carries fairly well, but unfortunately, I hate holding this knife. You can look at this knife and you can tell, like, I don't know whose hands these are made for, some kind of ogre, but I don't really hold knives like this. This feels very unnatural to me. I don't know if that's a finger choil, because it's not really finger shaped. It's kind of like fish hook. So I don't know, do I carry it back here? Do I hold it right here? Do I choke up and kind of nick the end of my finger there? This is just weird. I don't really get it on any form or fashion. Even if I do this, like, I'm so off balance now. Why would I ever want to hold my knife like this? Like, to me, the whole benefit of a kind of, not Wharncliffe, but I don't know, cleaver style blade, sheep's foot style blade, is that you want to use this to get at packages or to get at tape or to get at stuff like this, right? So I want to be choking up on this knife. I do not want to be back here. That may be helpful in something like a chef's knife. That is not, in my opinion, helpful here at all. So while this knife may be very easy to sharpen because of this maybe massive sharpening choil, it is not very nice to hold. This is like kind of trying to hold a brick, and I don't enjoy that. Apart from that, things I don't like, the aesthetics. I find this knife incredibly ugly. I'm sorry, that's just me. The holes here, I don't really know the purpose of these except maybe to like tie in the Spidey hole. I don't like the looks of these. I think that the shaping on the handle is just incredibly weird. I don't think this knife looks cool. I think, like, from here forward, I'm in favor of this knife. This is something I want. This is not something that I want. Other things, I don't like the G10. Now, granted, this is an exclusive. I don't really know what the carbon fiber version is like, but this is very, very slick. Again, reminiscent of the Benchmade 940 G10 that I had. I don't see the point. You're going to have G10 like this. You're going to have, it's so slick. I mean, it gives no traction whatsoever. And honestly, if I'm trying to get a grip on this very weirdly formed knife, some traction may help. And unfortunately, it does not here. So not a fan of the G10. So yeah, I mean, I don't really want to beat up on it too much. I feel like I've done that enough. But in the end, this is an absolute cut for me. I don't get the hype about this knife one bit. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe, I mean, that's possible. But this knife is not for me. Drop a comment if you want to disagree with me. I'd be happy to hear other opinions, but I don't really understand this knife. Happy to take a look at it. I do think the button compression lock thing here is pretty cool, but this is not for me. Hope you've enjoyed this review, and I'll see you next time.